PS5 owners, if you have been saving money and waiting for a perfect choice, congratulations, 2026 just handed you 18 of these upcoming masterpieces, and you gotta admit, they look insane. Let's dive into them with our first upcoming masterpiece, called Marvel's Wolverine. And Insomniac Games has not made a single bad game since joining PlayStation, and Wolverine is about to be their most unhinged work yet. This is M-rated, the first time the studio has ever gone there, which means no holding back on what Logan actually is, a guy with unbreakable claws, a healing factor that laughs at death, and enough built-up rage to level a city block. The combat footage already shows a level of brutality no previous Wolverine game ever had the guts to commit to. The story takes Logan into Madripoor. Comic fans know exactly why that location matters. This is also confirmed as the first entry in a planned X-Men trilogy from Insomniac, so the groundwork being laid here goes way beyond just one game. September 15th, PS5 exclusive. The Claws are finally getting the game they deserve, and the wait is almost done. Another banger shown up is Metro 2039. 4A Games built this while their Ukrainian team members worked through an actual war, sheltering from drone strikes, running equipment on generators, refusing to stop. That fact alone gives Metro 2039 a weight most games could never carry. You are back underground in the Moscow tunnels where the series belongs, playing a haunted recluse who gets dragged back into the metro he swore he would never see again. The franchise goes back to its tight, claustrophobic roots after Exodus opened things up. Dark corridors, mutants around blind corners, every bullet counting, every step forward feeling earned. The original author worked directly on the story while living in exile. Rebuilt visuals on a new engine, psychological horror dialed all the way up, and an atmosphere so thick you can almost feel the tunnel walls pressing in through the screen. Winter 2026. This team has been through something real, and it is going to come through in every single level.
Ash my buttons. Your life seems a grand one, if I may say. So full of adventure.
Now, third upcoming masterpiece is Black Flag Resync, which is still the Assassin's Creed that fans bring up whenever the debate starts about which one is the best. And now Ubisoft Singapore has rebuilt it completely from scratch. Same story, same Edward Kenway energy, but rebuilt on a brand new engine with combat that actually feels modern, parkour that flows like the recent games, and new story content written by the original writer who came back specifically for this remake. The tailing missions that made players want to throw their controllers for 13 years? Gone. New officers join your crew with their own quest lines, new story arcs for Blackbeard and Steed Bonnet, ray tracing, full DualSense haptics, and the original voice actor back with fresh recorded lines. Matt Ryan returned to the role, and the whole thing launches July 9th on PS5. 13 years of waiting for someone to do this properly, and Ubisoft finally delivered.
Make him call off the attack.
Are you out of your mind?
I'll be careful. He'd been the phone.
Go to the security room, first floor.
And you are?
Rob Minkley.
IO Interactive spent years perfecting the art of dropping players into a sandbox and letting them cause chaos however they please. Every Hitman level, a clockwork puzzle built to be dismantled. And now they are pointing that same energy straight at James Bond. Except this is not the polished, unflappable Bond you already know. This is a 26-year-old rookie who still makes mistakes, still figures out who he is, still earns every skill the hard way. The villain is played by Lenny Kravitz, which is a sentence that absolutely slaps. And the theme song comes from Lana Del Rey, produced by the legendary David Arnold. Go loud, go silent, sweet talk your way past a checkpoint, or just make a complete mess of everything and improvise. IO makes sure every approach is valid. May 27th on PS5. This might genuinely be the Bond game the franchise has needed since GoldenEye. Saros. Well, the time I am making this video, it is not released yet, but by the upload time, it might be released. So it's the same addictive roguelike loop, more welcoming to players who bounced off the first game. Same uncompromising atmosphere and tension. You are on a planet called Carcosa under a permanent eclipse, where the world reshapes itself between runs, and the darkness is full of things that absolutely do not want you here. The DualSense work builds directly on Returnal and remains some of the best controller integration on the platform. PlayStation exclusive April 30th, which is basically right now. If Returnal ever caught your eye for even 5 seconds, this studio has completely earned your trust.
The Order's blades are coming. They failed once, they won't fail again.
S-Game walked onto a PlayStation showcase with a game nobody had heard of and stopped the entire gaming conversation for a solid week. Phantom Blade Zero looks like what happens when a wuxia martial arts film and a top-tier action RPG have a very fast, very stylish child with absolutely no chill. The combat flows at a speed that makes most Souls-like games look like they are moving in slow motion, sword techniques bleeding into supernatural abilities in ways that look choreographed, not clunky. The animations alone had developers across the industry pausing footage and talking about how this studio pulled it off. PS5 and PC only, no Xbox version in sight, which means PlayStation players get this one all to themselves. September 9th, 6 days before Wolverine drops. That single week of September 2026 is quietly shaping up to be the most wallet-destroying stretch of gaming this year.
I became something else instead. Worst nightmare.
Rebel Wolves was founded by developers who worked on The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, and their first original game is going after something the RPG genre has genuinely never attempted before. You play as Cohen, a man stuck halfway between human and vampire in a dark fantasy medieval world that is falling apart around him. Here's the twist. You have a limited number of daylight hours before your vampire side fully takes over, so every decision about where to go and who to save costs something real. The story pushes you to rescue people you care about, but the clock is always ticking and the choices stack up fast. From the people behind two of the greatest RPGs ever made, the ambition here feels completely earned rather than just talked about. Confirmed for 2026, and the buzz around this one is building every single month.
Also, you don't have a chance.
22 years is a long time to wait for a franchise to wake back up. Onimusha defined samurai action gaming on the PS2 and then went quiet for 2 entire console generations, while fans kept asking Capcom to please bring it back. The answer is finally yes. You are playing as the legendary Musashi Miyamoto, fighting through a corrupted Edo-era Kyoto with the Oni Gauntlet, absorbing Demon Souls mid-fight to power yourself up in real time. And yes, that mechanic still sounds as satisfying as it did back in 2001. Capcom is arguably making their best action games right now across every single franchise they touch. Turning that energy toward one of their greatest dormant IPs feels like the most exciting thing they could have announced. Confirmed for 2026, the fans who never stopped asking for this one are almost at the finish line.
I woke up in the water again. But this time it's different.
No Code makes horror experiences that mess with reality itself. Stories Untold blurred the line between the game and the player. Observation made consciousness feel like a trap. Now Konami handed them Silent Hill, and honestly, the pairing feels almost too perfect. A man is stuck in an emergency vehicle with only a radio, and whatever is coming through that radio is deeply, fundamentally wrong. Almost nothing about the gameplay has been shown, and that is clearly the point. The original Silent Hill games built their horror through what they implied, not what they showed. A long, dark hallway with something breathing at the other end hits harder than any jump scare. If No Code brings that same restraint to 2026 hardware, this could be the most skin-crawling game of the year. Playground Games built Forza Horizon into one of the most joyful open-world franchises in gaming. And now they are applying everything they know to Albion, and Fable is finally coming to PlayStation for the very first time. No sequel, no direct reboot, just a fresh take on one of gaming's most beloved worlds, built from the ground up for current hardware. Dark fairy tale humor, moral choices that physically show up on your character, a world that feels alive and a little bit dangerous and a lot funny all at the same time. An enormous number of PlayStation players have never been able to experience Fable before, and that is about to change. Confirmed 2026 window, release date coming. The people who grew up watching Xbox players talk about this franchise from a distance are finally getting their turn. The first Mortal Shell cost less than $30, came from a small indie team, and sold over 1 million copies on the back of one brilliant idea: possessing the bodies of fallen warriors mid-fight, each one playing completely differently. The sequel takes that idea and absolutely runs with it. Full open world, 60 dungeons, guns added alongside swords, and a combat system rebuilt around breaking enemies down and finishing them off with real impact. 3 completely distinct warriors were shown in the April gameplay reveal, and every single one felt like a different game to play. The jump from a budget indie to a full-price release with a collector's edition tells you everything about the confidence behind what Cold Symmetry built this time. An open beta is expected around June. The Souls-like crowd is watching this one very closely.
Lost worlds. Frozen in time.
Crystal Dynamics spent 3 games rebuilding Lara from scratch, and Legacy of Atlantis looks like the moment that entire trilogy was pointing toward. Atlantis as a villain organization goes all the way back to the very first Tomb Raider in 1996, and pulling that mythology into the modern era means fans from both generations of this franchise get something made for them. This is fully powered up modern Lara going up against something ancient and genuinely dangerous, and the scale feels bigger than anything in the reboot series. A proper full reveal with gameplay is expected later in 2026. Everything Crystal Dynamics has done lately suggests this one is going to land exactly as hard as the premise promises. Remedy Entertainment made the first Control back in 2019, and it became one of the most atmospheric and wildly creative third-person games of that entire generation. A brutalist government building where reality had completely broken down, and the laws of physics were more like suggestions. The sequel takes everything that made that game special and throws it onto the streets of Manhattan, which has now been swallowed by the same paranatural chaos. You play as Dylan Faden, Jesse's brother from the first game, who gets pulled out of captivity by the very people who locked him up because the situation has gotten so bad that they genuinely have no other option. His main weapon is called the Aberrant, a shape-shifting melee tool that transforms mid-combat depending on how you fight. Gravity anomalies flip entire zones upside down, reality bends around you, and the city looks nothing like any Manhattan you have ever seen in a game before. Brand new players can jump straight in without touching the first game, which is a smart move. Co-produced with Annapurna Pictures, confirmed for 2026 and shaping up to be one of the most visually unhinged experiences on PS5 this year.
I'm glad you're here.
The February 2026 PlayStation State of Play revealed Kena new sequel. Nobody even saw it coming. Scars of Kosmara follows an older and more experienced Kena who travels to a mysterious island called Kosmara, searching for answers about something personal she has been carrying her whole life. Early in the adventure, a powerful spirit shatters her staff, which is basically a spirit guide's entire identity, and forces her to learn a completely forgotten form of spirit guiding built around elemental alchemy. The little rot companions are back, but this time they are tied to specific elements. They grow stronger as your bond deepens, and they unlock new abilities that lead directly into both combat and exploration. New elemental infusions, aerial gameplay mechanics, bigger boss fights, and a world that is noticeably larger and more open than anything in the first game. The visuals look absolutely stunning. Ember Lab has a gift for making worlds feel warm and alive, and Kosmara carries that same energy at a bigger scale. Published by Sony Interactive Entertainment on PS5, 2026 window confirmed, and this one deserves way more attention than it is currently getting.
On the road to salvation. Paths.
The first Lords of the Fallen relaunch had a rough start, and the studio spent months getting it right. But once they did, the game found real fans who loved what was hiding under the surface. The dual realm mechanic, flipping between the living world and the dead world in real time to find routes and secrets that only exist in one layer, is one of the most creative ideas the Souls-like genre has produced, and nothing else does it. The sequel is built on everything that experience taught them, with more world, deeper combat, and a team that is very publicly committed to shipping something complete and polished from day one this time. For players who want a Souls-like doing something genuinely different, this one belongs on the watch list for 2026. Beethoven and Dinosaur made The Artful Escape, one of the most purely joyful indie games in recent memory, and their follow-up is going straight for the feelings. Three high school friends on their last night together, a playlist pulling them into dreamlike recreations of the moments that shaped who they became, and a soundtrack featuring Iggy Pop, Joy Division, The Cure, and Devo that tells you immediately what emotional wavelength this game is on. Published by Annapurna Interactive, who have never put their name on something that was not worth your time. May 7th on PS5. It is the smallest game on this list, and it might be the one that hits the hardest. Some games you play to be impressed. This one you play to feel something real. One More Level made the Ghost Runner games, some of the fastest and most satisfying first-person movement experiences in recent gaming, and their next project takes all of that kinetic energy and drops it into a supernatural Napoleonic nightmare. You are William, a British soldier in Napoleon's Grande Armée, who dies on a battlefield and wakes back up in a Europe that has completely fallen apart. A mysterious plague has swept the continent, and the dead are not staying dead. The whole thing is first-person Souls-like, which is a combination almost nobody has pulled off properly before, and One More Level is swinging hard at it. Wall running, grappling hooks, parries, dashes, visceral finishers, and a rapier build for players who like precision and high-risk, high-reward combat. All of it layered into a dark alternate history setting that feels genuinely fresh. The soundtrack is co-composed by the person who scored Silent Hill 2 Remake and Layers of Fear, which tells you immediately this game is not messing around with its atmosphere. The studio confirmed it is content complete in an alpha as of April 2026, meaning fall 2026 is a real window, not just wishful thinking. This is one of those games that comes out of nowhere and ends up being one of the most talked about releases of the year. And finally, we had our most anticipated upcoming masterpiece of 2026, the GTA 6. Well, you heard right. Rockstar Games has spent over a decade cooking, and November 19th is the day the entire planet finds out if it was worth the wait. Spoiler, it absolutely is. You are heading back to Vice City, but this time it sits inside a massive fictional state called Leonida, which is nearly twice the size of GTA 5's world and stuffed with over 700 enterable buildings. You play as Jason and Lucia, a criminal couple, think modern Bonnie and Clyde, who pull one job, watch it go sideways, and suddenly find themselves in the middle of something way bigger than either of them signed up for. Lucia is the first playable female protagonist in limelight GTA history, which is genuinely a big deal. The open world reacts to chaos in ways no previous GTA has managed. Every publisher in the gaming industry shifted their releases out of November to avoid competing with this. That is not hype. That is the entire industry stepping aside. PS5 and Xbox get it first. No PC date announced yet. November 19th. Set an alarm.